Today we're going to talk about the calorie, and it's going to be. It should dovetail with the podcast that you guys listened to last week to a certain extent. But to begin, I just want to get a sense of what people around the world eat. I've been asking you guys what kinds of foods you eat. I had you write down your responses at the end of class last week. Thank you. And we're going to revisit that data. It was all anonymous, but it was interesting, the feedback that I got. By and large, you guys have a pretty healthy diet, or at least you think you do, so that's great. Let's look at some of the school lunches from around the world. I don't know the socioeconomic background or the specific regional background of all of you in detail yet. But for those of you who had lunch in the United States, do any of you recognize that kind of thing from middle school, junior high, or high school? How many people would have had that kind of lunch? Would you say that is doing better or worse than the lunch that you had? Who thinks that's maybe a healthier lunch, or representative, or worse? Hard to know. We have a little cookie. We have, which is probably the first thing that my 7-year-old child would have focused on when he saw that plate. He would see a cookie, and then he would see probably maybe the chicken nuggets with some ketchup there, or barbecue sauce, or whatever that is, and the fruit cup, and then maybe he does like peas. He might eat those, or the mashed potatoes. Not sure. Well, here is a typical school lunch from Brazil. What do we have? What do we have there? We have some kind of, looks like pork with some peppers and cilantro. Looks pretty tasty to me. Some beans and rice, fried plantains, some kale, and like a whole grain bun. Definitely different looking than the typical U.S. Meal. So here is what it would a typical school lunch in Italy might look like. We're going to go through tons of these. I have a whole series of them. Grapes, pasta, what is that, a piece of fish maybe on a bed of arugula, a little salad with some tomatoes and some kind of cheese and a little bit of bread. Here's Finland. Looks like a little crepe, some sort of soup, a bun, beet salad, sweet potatoes. It's delicious. South Korea. Maybe some kimchi. I'm not sure what the protein is on top of the rice. Is it tofu, you think? Is that tofu? Yeah, I guess that's right. And broccoli and some peppers and some kind of soup there. Looks delicious. All right, so here's France. A little slice of chilled roast beef, some apples, some brie, some green beans, cut fruit, and some maybe steamed carrots. Seems reasonable. Greece. I like the touch of the leaves on the fruit, the grape leaves. Who would eat this lunch? I would eat that lunch. I would eat that lunch. Some cucumbers, tomatoes, yogurt with pomegranates. It's fairly balanced. The Ukraine. So a little starchier here. A bunch of potatoes and a crepe and maybe a cabbage salad, some kind of coleslaw. What is that? Cranberry sauce or something to go over the blintz. Some sausages. Yeah. Spain. So this looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. Fruit. Some sort of gazpacho maybe. Shrimp on a pilaf. Whole grain bun. Again, some steamed peppers. So that's a pretty common theme. There are some commonalities. All right. So we're going to look now at what people eat in a typical family would eat in their homes from around the world. And here is an African American family from the United States. The Rivas family. They live in North Carolina, and they spend about $340 a week on food. Does that seem like a reasonable amount? Does that seem expensive to you? Does that seem less, like that's a thrifty food budget? Who thinks they could feed a family of 4 on that?
It seems pretty expensive.
So you think?
Quality of food they're buying.
So you think you could get a better deal for that same quality and quantity of food? $340.
Yeah.
What are some other things you guys noticed, Christian?
I would also kind of agree. Just like 340 or pretty much $342. There's just a lot of food on there that it seems like it would last them more than a week. So
it would last them more than a week.
Right, like I'm seeing like a lot of like condiments and sauces and things like that. And who knows? I mean, I don't know this family. Maybe they do go through that in a week, but it's just I feel that if they was just like buying stuff for the 3 meals a day, stuff that you just eat it once and it's gone, I feel like 342 is not like significantly higher than I think it would be, but like a little higher.
Are there other thoughts? What do you think, Hannah?
Yeah, well, I do agree with that, and I would think you could like buy healthier food with that amount of money. Like, if you were spending that much money, it seems like you could get higher quality.
Okay. What do you think?
I actually disagree with the first two opinions. I think it's average, if not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I from family 4, and we got shop like we're gonna Whole Foods is around my house.
Mm-hmm.
Our grocery bills are $500, $600,
Mm-hmm.
and we get like twice a week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, like honestly, it's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And with 2 boys also, they eat a lot.
They look like growing boys. Yeah, some teenagers there eating some food, for sure. All right, let's look at another family. This is the Fernandes family. They live in Texas, and here is their food, and they spend about $240, so about $100 less a week on food. $240. We do have a couple pizzas in the back. Their kids are younger, but it looks like they have a grandma staying with them. There's a grandmother. What differences do you notice in the food that this family is eating here?
It seems like there's a lot more produce than in the last family, and then in the back there's a lot of water. But in the family before there was soda and juice and things that are more expensive.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, what do you think?
There's stuff in this picture that requires preparation, like I see raw meat that has to be cooked, whereas I think the other one it was mostly things that are ready to eat out of the bag.
Mm-hmm. Any other observations? Yeah, more fruits and vegetables, produce. So that already points out a very well-recognized phenomenon that families that are buying processed food or pre-prepared food are tending to spend more money on their calories than families who go and buy less processed food, so just more raw produce, and are preparing their foods. But that can, as Albert, is that right? What you go by Jake? Jake, thanks. Yeah. As Jake pointed out, that can vary widely depending on upon where you shop, what part of the country. So Jake lives near Boston, I believe. Oh, Maryland, sorry, pardon me. And perhaps the food costs are higher there. He was shopping at Whole Foods, maybe buying organic, and those food bills can be quite a bit higher depending on the source of the food, the outlet that you're getting the food at. Yeah, so one thing that I would point out is because there is a grandmother there, that does confer some certain advantages to this family. You may think of, well, I guess, talk about that for a minute. You give me, is having the grandma an advantage or a disadvantage? Because you could see it both ways. What could be harder about having a grandma in the house? There's another mouth to feed, yeah.
I was going to say, I mean, well, we know she could be very healthy, but like sometimes there's like medical expenses that need to get taken care of.
Mm-hmm. So the family may have overhead because of the grandma. What are the benefits of having her there? Yeah. So she may be able to open up time in the schedule of the parents to be able to prepare more food. And maybe the parents in the previous family don't have that luxury and are under a greater time crunch. So maybe she can watch the kids, or maybe she's doing the cooking, something like that. So that kind of thing, the structure of the family does have an impact on the kinds of foods, food choices that a family can make. All right, the Cavin family from California. All right, so these people are somehow able to spend in a week $160. Their favorite meals are beef stew, berry yogurt sundae, and clam chowder, and I'm sure the kids both voted for ice cream. So let's see here. What do we have in this family's diet? We see, would you say the same amount of food, relatively more, less food? What's different? What do you notice about this family?
It seems like quantity is a lot lower in the back, right? Just a lot more bread products.
A lot of bread products in the back, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We also have a lot of snacks.
A lot of snack foods. Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the side there. What else do you guys notice about this family? Is there anything different about this family than the other two? So I was just talking about family structure. What's one thing that's different here? The kids are much younger and smaller, aren't they? And there's no extra mouth to feed. So their requirements are going to be a little bit different. In terms of the actual food that's sitting there, would you say this is skewed towards one meal or the other in the day? So there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Seems like a lot of breakfast foods there. Yeah. Do these kids get school lunch? Maybe they get school lunch, so they're not worrying about that. Yeah, I see some broccoli, and that's about it for the greens there. All right, so that's the United States. Let's see what some places around the world eat. Here's Italy. Love to travel to Italy. Never been there. Anyone been to Italy? Does this seem like a reasonable assortment of the food that you encountered there? Did you stay with any families, or was it just a vacation?
I was there last semester. I lived with a family, and my family didn't eat a whole lot of fruit. It was every day was pasta and then meat and then an orange or some strawberries, whatever was in season. And bread. Yeah, they do have bread, but they never. It's kind of funny. They never eat bread with pasta the way we always eat bread with pasta. They always have one or the other. But like that's a lot of fruit based on what I saw.
Yeah, seems like a lot. Anyone else have any observations or comments? So they're spending $260, the equivalent of $260 a week, roughly equivalent to what people are spending the Menendez family in Texas, that family of 5 that was down there. And this is a family of 5, certainly different, 3 much smaller kids.
They have a good variety of sweet.
Yeah. There's drinking a lot of sugar there, aren't they? And there is breakfast cereal up on the thing behind them, up there on the bureau. Interesting to see a TV by their dinner table. All right, so here's Germany, the Sturm family. Who's been to Hamburg before? I actually have. And what is this? How does this strike you? So these people spend $325 US dollars. They have 2 little children, one like preteen, looks like. Favorite food, salad, shrimp, vegetables, sweet rice, cinnamon, sugar, and pasta. What do you notice about this meal here? There is a lot of food that requires some preparation. There's also, looks like quite a bit of carry-out food there too, on those chairs and in the foreground. They certainly are ordering out. In that front there is some falafel. When I was in Germany, at least, I noticed a lot of Mediterranean food. There's a lot of Turkish migrants into the country, and so there's a lot of that kind of Mediterranean Turkish food. What about the beverages? Yeah, they're drinking a lot of juice. It seems like. Over on the side. In the background, I can't tell. Can't tell what that is back there. Yeah, maybe. Or it might be juice. Some cheese. A lot of carafes of water. Okay. Norway. Another European country. 2,000 kroner, or 379 US dollars a week. So this is the highest we've seen so far. I would say their favorite foods here are fresh baked bread with butter and sugar, pancakes, tomato soup, macaroni, cold milk, and yogurt. What do you notice about this diet here? How does that compare to the other Europeans? Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's not like this is like a really big difference, but I just noticed there's a lot of carbs. If you look at their favorite foods, those are like a lot of carbs.
Also a lot of dairy.
Yeah, a lot of milk and a lot of bread.
Lots of cereal too.
Yeah, cereals would fit into the grain category with the bread for sure. So heavy on the grains. There are quite a few potatoes there, some starches, and yeah, it looks like they have grains for breakfast, some sort of grain for breakfast. Not a whole lot of vegetables. I don't see a lot of vegetables there. There are a few tomatoes. I see very little meat. on that. There's maybe a little bit of lunch meat there, a smattering of fruit in the back. All right. Now let's leave Europe and go to Japan. This is the Ukita family, and they spend about $320 a week. Favorite foods are sashimi. What is sashimi? Raw fish. Yeah. They like fruit, cake, and potato chips. So what do we see here? What's a big difference in this spread? There's a whole lot of seafood. There's a lot of fish there, and a lot of other things in packages. Yeah, those could be noodles. I'm sure some of that stuff is noodles. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of condiments, sauces. There's the mirin. I see a full bottle of mirin they must go through in a week. Some fruit. There is some fruit there, absolutely. And there are some greens in the back. It looks like he's got some kind of onion sitting in a jar of water or something. Now let's go to Africa. The Abubakar family from Chad. So this is a pretty striking difference. This family in U.S. dollars spends $1.23 a week. I don't actually know what the average daily income in Chad is. I know it's not the lowest in the continent, but what do we see here? What's in this? We say favorite food, soup, and fresh sheep meat. What else do you guys notice? Is that? Yeah, there's a big jug of water, but it's not that big of a jug of water. How much water do you think you drink yourself in a week? Who drinks about a gallon a week? Who drinks more than a gallon of water in a week? Okay. So that family of 6 has got a gallon of water in front of them.
I don't know if those jugs still left or maybe.
Oh, probably, yeah, that's right. Yes, there you go. Thank you. That's right. They're sitting in front of a whole line of jugs, so they must go through a lot of water there. And what about those sacks? We have, yeah, there's a big sack of rice on the one side and a sack of beans on the other. So their primary proteins are coming from legumes, and then the gluten that must be in the rice. So rice does have a significant amount of protein in it. And then the stuff in front of them is just a smattering of chilies and different spices. I'm not even sure what that is a picture of. All that stuff is a picture of. I see some green beans maybe there in front of the woman with the baby, or peas. Has anybody been to Chad or Africa? I know one of you's been to Africa. Has anyone else been to Africa? What were your experiences eating there?
A lot of rice.
Where were you?
Uganda.
Oh, did you guys go together? No.
Yeah. Basically, a lot of rice and beans.
A lot of rice and beans. So this doesn't seem surprising to you, what you see here in front of these people. What are other people's impressions? What do you say, George, when I showed you this? Was this surprising to you, or is this something if you were to have predicted?
I mean, it's significantly less food, I guess, like, based on like looking at the different pictures and thinking about the economic development of each country. This isn't super surprising. They're eating a lot less food, and it does make sense that they're having like mostly grains and
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot less expensive to maintain. Just like a much more basic like palate.
Mm-hmm. Look where they're living there in the background. Do you think it would be easy for them to choose to go and get?
Probably pretty constricted in like what they're able to grow or like keep. Like it doesn't seem like there's a lot of like it doesn't seem like there's much area to have like much livestock
Yeah.
graze or anything, and then it doesn't. It seems relatively arid, so I don't think you'd
Yeah.
be able to grow a ton there either.
Yeah, hard to know a whole lot about their life, just inferring from the photo. But yeah, it looks like there's a whole encampment in canvas tents where they are. All right, so let's move to Kuwait. So this family, the Al Hagan family from Kuwait City, spend 63 dinar, which is approximately 220 bucks, on that beautiful spread right there. So what are some things you notice about this family and their food? Yeah, Christian.
Similar to a few other families, we've seen lots of produce. I see carrots and something that looks green, bananas, oranges, cabbage. I think is on the far left.
Mm-hmm.
Eggplant.
Yeah. What else? Yeah, Hannah.
Just from glancing at it, this looks like probably one of the more balanced diets I think you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Really big family.
It's a huge family. I mean, I don't know. To me, 8 people is a large family. It's a large family. So let's see if we can figure out the structure of that family. It looks like the dad's pretty clear there, and it seems like the mom is on the other flank, the third in. Their kids are in between them. I don't know how those other two on the left flank fit into the family structure, but they're there, which assumes that they're mouths that are being fed. Large, spacious kitchen. That's not a kitchen. Like I don't see a microwave in that kitchen, and I don't see any. I don't really see any pre-prepared or heavily processed foods. It seems like there are some different kinds of curry packs, like spice packs in the front, that you'd use to make some sort of curry, but otherwise a huge lamb shank, a bunch of fish, a large amount of produce, a lot of fruit, and probably the largest amount of vegetables that we've seen so far. I see very little sugary drinks. There's a little bit there on the right. There's a big container of oil for cooking and a huge bag of rice that probably accompanies most of their meals. Yep, there is sugar in their diet for sure. But seeing a bag of sugar indicates that they're adding it themselves and have more control over the level of sugar that's entering their diet. And far more eggs than we've seen in anybody else's diet so far. Lots of eggs here.
A lot of these families have bottled water somewhere in there.
Well, does that make sense to you? Does your family drink bottled water? Do not. You boil water. It's like tap water, and you would boil it. And why do you think they're drinking bottled water as opposed to boiling it, perhaps, or drinking the tap? It's convenient, for sure. It's convenient. What about the family in Chad? Where do you think they're getting their water? Maybe a river. Yeah, maybe a spring that has or a well. Yeah. So a communal source of water for those people. All right, Mexico. Look at the beautiful panoply of food that these people are blessed with. So this is the Casales family of Cuernavaca, and they're spending 1,800 pesos, or about 190 bucks a week. And what do we see here? A lot of Coca-Cola, a whole lot of Coca-Cola.
It's also matched by a ton of produce.
There's a ton of produce. It's true. And it looks like most of that produce is actually fruit. That whole table there are some, maybe tomatoes, and there's a lot of chili peppers, but then there's, I see lemons, limes, mangoes, bananas, pineapple, plums. What are those in the back there? Any other observations? Eggs. Certainly some eggs. Looks like powdered milk. Looks like they're drinking powdered milk. And cornflakes for breakfast. Oops. China. All right, it's the Dong family from Beijing. So they spend about 1,200 yuan, or 155 bucks in a week. They look quite happy, family of 4. What do you guys notice here? So we have a couple Chinese students here. Has anyone else been to China? Does this, to the students from China, does this seem representative of meals that you are familiar with in China? You say no. More greens according to season than that.
Is there rice in the picture?
It seems like there's a big bag of rice behind the 2 baguettes there. More noodles and dumplings.
We're from the north of China. From the south, so we eat more rice.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they use the water distillation machine, which I also use.
Is that common in China?
Yeah, I think so. At least in the south.
Mm-hmm. And why is that?
I guess in China we're just more used to, because usually there's like this company that delivers water and like this huge jug on top, and you can just take it over and you just put it in the machine. I'm not really sure why, but
So you would never walk up to the tap and drink a cup of tap
no,
water
we
there?
don't do that. It's really dirty.
Dirty how? Like bacteria, heavy metals? What would you guess is in there?
I think I actually went to a water factory once, and I think the water that they produce over there, they put, I think it's chlorine or something to kill the bacteria. But like after that, you just kind of, that is kind of like the final process. So there might still be some of the chemicals they use to clean the bacteria in it. So if you drink it, it's going to be really harmful for your body.
Okay. Who here drinks tap water? Has anybody been anywhere where it's not in the culture to drink tap water, and how did you? So just tell me what that was like.
I was in Indonesia, which just used a lot of like bottled water, like had like a thing like that to distill the water.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, I don't know, just had to be like not like careful necessarily, but like it was just like different. Instead of just like going up and like filling up a cup at the sink, you would just go to like the water bubbler instead. Just took a little getting used to, but it wasn't anything like weird. It was just kind of
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't like it was like everybody was doing it. You just kind of like got used to it after a couple days.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have a story? Yeah, Hannah.
Well, I went to Guatemala, and it was kind of a similar situation. Like the tap water was the same, but I don't think it was like chemicals as much as just like bacteria and that sort of thing. So you just drink bottled water.
And what about the people that lived there?
It depended, I think, on socioeconomic status.
And what happened to the people that did drink it?
I think eventually a lot of people just build up not immunity, but like they build up kind of a tolerance for it. But I think it does like overall.
Okay, so some people were drinking it and they seemed to be okay, but it was associated with socioeconomic status in Guatemala. Anyone else have a story about that? Yeah, Nick.
Just at home in Hong Kong, a lot of the buildings are very old and have old piping.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are a lot of heavy metals in the water. So I think generally people either get filtration systems for their taps or they boil water.
Mm-hmm. And how would the boiling it remove the lead, though? That doesn't remove lead, correct?
Makes people feel safer.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. So let's go back to Europe. Here's Eastern European country, Poland. I don't know, Sabrasinski family. They spend 582 zlotys, or I'm not sure how to say that, $150 a week. Their favorite foods are pig knuckles and carrots, celery and parsnips. And we have, what is this? A husband and a wife with their mother and father. Looks like there's a pair of grandparents, and there's a single daughter. So a family of 5, 4 adults in there. $150. What do we see in that food? Yeah, Christian.
Well, I think this is the first time I've seen a family pet, and there's dog food to the left.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if they factor that into their grocery budget.
Yeah, sure.
I have 2 dogs, and if you factor that into our grocery, it does add up.
Yeah, you're right. There's a whole table just devoted to that schnauzer there. That's a great observation. What else do you see? Would you say this food tends towards processed or prepared? Prepared. They prepare a lot of their food. Dad seems to be holding a big fish over there. Pig knuckles with carrots sounds like something you make yourself. Again, so we notice that Poland's right next door to Germany. This food bill is a third of what it was for the German family. And this family has 4 adults and only 1 child, and a lot more prepared food, right? So there's that shared duty and ability to make food. Yeah, Anna.
There's also a ton of candy. Is that all candy that goes around that white table?
Yeah, there's candy. It looks like maybe granola bars, power bars or something. I'm not really sure what that stuff is.
There's a bag of M&Ms.
Yeah, they have a sweet tooth for sure. Mm-hmm. Some Coca-Cola in the background, although nothing like that family from, was it Mexico that was drinking all that Coke? Yeah. All right. Egypt. The Ahmed family from Cairo. Okay, so the most analogous country that we've seen prior to this was Kuwait. How does this compare to the Kuwaiti diet? So these people are spending $68 a week. Pretty good.
For a lot of people.
For ostensibly the largest family we've seen so far. So many people here, it's hard. It's a cluster. It's hard to know where the anchor is. Yeah, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 adults. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. I think I got them. Well, it's 12 people. Seems like quite a bit of people for $68 being fed. What do you notice about that food?
They have a lot of produce, and does it look like there's any processed food?
Yeah, there's hardly any. I have a hard time identifying any processed food at all there. There is a little bit of soda, which seems like about it. Mostly just spices. A lot of vegetables. more vegetables, leafy greens than we've seen anywhere else so far. Ecuador. The Aim family from Tingo. They spend 31 bucks a week. Favorite foods, potato soup and cabbage. Oh, that dad and mom look so proud. Look at them. That's cool. So what are they eating here? Yep. A lot of plantains, both yellow and green plantains. So that's a big source of their calories. Seems like most of their calories are coming from carbohydrates of one source or another. Some starches. There's probably beans in that bag on the one side there. Yeah, entirely prepared. There's no processed food in that photo at all. Family from Mongolia. What do we see here? In contrast to the previous photo, this is heavy on the protein, isn't it? A lot of protein. Meat, eggs, protein, and then bread. A little bit of vegetables in the back. Very little processed food. I don't really see any. I see a lot of condiments. Yeah, mom's doing the cooking there. Or maybe the daughter, or maybe the dad. I don't know, but yeah, a lot of prepared food. Great Britain, 253 bucks. What do we notice here? Lots more packages, mostly packages. Yeah, a whole table of sweets. There's all kinds of digestive biscuits and candy bars up there. Despite that, they look reasonably healthy. There is some produce. There's a dog. Big bag of dog food. Looks like that dog is eating a little more than the dog in Poland. Might be bigger, I guess. A lot of milk, Weetabix, some processed foods and pizzas. Country from Bhutan in Asia. Mushrooms, cheese, and pork. Hello. Come on. There you go. Again, heavily prepared. These people are feeding 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 people for $5 a week. It's impressive. It's impressive. Yeah, the disparity of cost of food. But they're preparing it all themselves. There are a few bottled things over there. It looks like maybe some tea and maybe some milk. Or I don't know what's in that white container there. Australia. Not to forget these people, $375, quite expensive. Wow, Australians eat a lot of meat, don't they? A lot of meat, a lot of eggs, bottled water, arid country, Australia. All right, Norway, similar to the people from Sweden, except I see more. Oh no, we already had a was it Norway earlier? That other family? Yeah, so 2 from Norway. So this kind of goes to show that just like families in the United States, that can vary. It varies in other countries. So these are just not representative of the whole country, just some anecdotal sampling. A lot more produce here. Fish. Looks like drinking a lot of milk. We did notice there's a lot of dairy in the other family as well. Less bread in this family. Yeah. Do you notice that? So the first family was spending about $370. This family's spending twice that, $730. They do have a teenage boy in the house who's probably chowing some food. But we're in Norway and we have a lot of bananas on the table, a lot of fresh fruit, a lot of fruit that was not grown in Norway. Whereas that other family was eating a lot of bread that was ostensibly produced in Norway, a lot of milk that was produced in Norway. So the locality of food is going to affect the cost. Guatemala, the Mendozas of Todos Santos. These people spend $75 a week, lots of grains. So similar, not totally dissimilar to Ecuador, but these people clearly have a little bit more produce available to them, maybe higher economic means. Luxembourg, these people spend $500 a week, pretty high amount. A lot of bread, wine. We see more alcohol on the table here than we have in any of the others. A lot of bubbled water, Coca-Cola, and processed food. I find it funny that the guy is sitting there holding a chicken, and then the mom is holding her daughter's picture. I'm not quite sure what that means. And the kid's holding a dog. The poor guy there doesn't have anybody to hold. He's holding himself. All right, India. Lots of produce. I'm not sure how much of that is processed. It doesn't seem like a whole lot of it. Yeah, you've got a grandmother maybe the parents and an older daughter and their younger son. Africa, these people spend $25 a day, significantly more than the family in Chad. But a lot of grains and not much produce, a little basket of what maybe are tomatoes and eggplants there, a lot of chilies, some flatbread, and this is clearly an extended family that's living together, sharing their meals together, sharing the duties of preparing the food together. Canada, this is an indigenous family that lives in the far north. The Melansons of Iqaluit, from the Nunavut territory, spend $350 a week. Fish, quite a bit of meat, a significant amount of prepared or processed foods in the back, but a good mix, I guess. Their favorite foods, look at that. Anyone had narwhal before? You have? Good for you. What was that stuff like? Well, polar bear and extra cheese stuffed crust pizza. It's a funny mix to me. And then they like watermelon, which I'm sure is a treat up there. France, $400. Not too dissimilar from a lot of the other European diets. They have the first cat has appeared. All right, Greenland from Cape Hope. Again, polar bear and narwhal skin are their favorite foods, and they like seal stew. So these are people that must go out and hunt for their food, or perhaps they have a source of that meat that's being hunted locally. It seems like some of that food is on the table in front of them. I don't know, is that a penguin or what is that there on the table in front of them? Yeah, that's a great question. I think the book has certainly been published in the last 15 years, 12 years, something like that. But he spent years traveling. So some of these families are older photos, but I think he adjusted for inflation in the different countries, so that the numbers should be comparative. Yeah. Well, that's a great observation. Yeah. And how do you think that impacted this family's life? Their favorite food is So that's internationally protected even for the people of Greenland? Is that what it said? Oh, yeah. Here's a family from Turkey, $150, produce heavy. All right, so I think that's the end of class. That's all I wanted to talk about today, just to